everyone. This is Joe from What I'm Playing Now, and we are back here at Origins 2019. We're here with Julie from Greenbrier Games. One of the first things we're looking at is one of the first expansions to Folklore of the Affliction, Dark Tales.
That's right. So we were just talking about it, that the core game for Folklore of the Affliction is an RPG style tabletop game where you are using a storybook as your GM. You're in a gothic horror kind of fantasy world, so you've got a lot of vampires and werewolves, and you go around with characters that are preset, and you have adventures that are created by the GMs who are the writers. Twinfire are the original writers, and then of course I get to do some of the supplement writing, so I also sometimes help out in trying to kill you.
Not that's what you're trying to do.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Okay,
sure.
maybe.
Sure. So in this expansion, I can still give you some examples, just so and so somebody out there hasn't played Folklore gets a kind of a good idea about it. So you have these characters that are preset. So for example, we have the Slayer here. So we have our Slayer character, and she has all of her stats already created. She has her little booklet that has her backstory. One of two focuses, which is like a character class.
Right.
On the back, you have all the ways that she can level up in either of those classes. So as you get more experience, you level up. And then on the inside, you have what her starting abilities, which are card-based, and some of the special things that happen if you go to town, some of those things that would resolve. And of course, you also have her really cool miniature, which I'm sure you'll be able to take pictures of and show more closely.
We will splice that in, yes.
Are just squinting real hard and hoping they can see this gray blob.
Zoom in.
So you're taking your character, which is already preset, but you still have some variety of choice. You get to level up in your own way. And much in the same way, you use your story journal to read a story that we've created for you, but you still have that feeling of having a GM run it without having to do all that prep work for it. So everybody takes turn reading the story, or if you have that one person who likes to do community theater and is super dramatic, maybe just hand it to them and let them do all the reading, because they just really deliver some serious mood and atmosphere while they're doing their stuff. But either way, you're reading the story, and then you come to these choices, and your choices can be a variety of different things. So you could have everybody make a consensus. Do we go to the left? Do we go to the right? Or it might be a skill check. So, you come to a guard, and you need to get through the gate, and he doesn't want to go. Does anybody have a special bonus in speech? Now, the Avenging Madman, not your guy. He is not glib. He is
not the wordsmith of the group.
Right, he is not the wordsmith. But, so for example, the scientist here in the expansion, she's fairly intelligent. She's rational. She can maybe at least confuse him if all things fail.
Persuade a little.
Persuade. And so she's going to do a roll with a bonus for her skill check. It may be something that's just a straight, you're doing a skirmish. Now, a skirmish is you're going to fight characters in an abstract dice roll. So you have the Wretched Hag here, and depending on how many players, it scales. Depending on the level of difficulty of the story, it also scales that way. And then depending on how many damage you have to do, it gets more difficult the higher the level. These are direct either hit or don't hit, so it's not add damage. If you hit, she gets knocked down, knocked down, knocked down.
Right.
And so it's meant to further the story fairly quickly while still having a combat type feel. Versus later on, maybe, in the story, that determines something in the decision-making process. Yeah. And so you move along until you get to an encounter, which is where you have your maps with your miniatures, and you put them out. And even that in the storybook will give you the map layout, where everybody's located. But then during the course of the story, the path you took in the story based on these decisions changes things.
Right.
So maybe you're on this map because the world took you to a market, and so the pivotal moment is happening between, you've got the Undertaker here because you tromped through his graveyard and disturbed some of the corpses, and now they're rising, and he's pretty annoyed about it. and a highwayman who saw opportunity to just cause trouble because he was stealing and sees that there's a distraction, so he's trying to steal things that you're fighting. Or maybe it took you to this kind of surreal palace location, and one of the wood nymphs is really upset with the woodsman here because going through the forest, she felt that he was disrespectful to just being by having the axe in the woods, was really upset. It depends on your choices. And that can go a lot of different ways. It can be something that happened. You pick another, almost a choose your own adventure, you pick another place in the story to jump to. It might be added information that you read at the back of the storybook.
Okay.
Or it might be something like, oh, that's the choice you made? Great, here's the blue story marker. We'll tell you what that's for later.
And I think that was one of the things that drew me to the game so much. Both the character choices you have in kind of almost like choosing multiple classes, when you're leveling up your characters, as well as the multiple style combat that you have. That you have the quick skirmishes as opposed to the zoomed in map. It gives you multiple different styles of combat, so it doesn't feel like you're doing the same thing constantly. Right. Which I think the repetitiveness of some of the games is kind of similar to this, gets kind of just gets kind of old, and you're just like, I think that mixture is really good for this game.
Right, and we were trying to be mindful of that. So in the core game, still fairly straightforward. We do change it up, and to your point, but then Dark Tales did even more with that, because in Dark Tales, we added a dungeon crawl element.
Oh, okay.
So that is different than the core game. So you're having a lot more dungeon crawl in this. And also, the first ones, the stories are tutorials, and they're loosely affiliated, but they're more of a one-shot. You're expected to play just one, and if you want to play the next one, that's fine, but it's not really campaign. Whereas the story journal for Dark Tales is actually 2 story arcs that build on each other. Okay. So you actually have some of the key components in here are you're going to build on. So you get heirlooms that you inherit from doing things that you can't otherwise get in the game. And once they're unlocked, now you're able to use them whenever you play.
And I will say, you mentioned like the book, the rule book. The rule book from the base set, I really like the way it was laid out, in that you're teaching the players how to play the game partially, and then you say, okay, stop here, start playing the game, and we'll teach you kind of the rest as you're going along.
That's right.
Which for a game like this, I think that's a really great way to introduce the characters, because sometimes you're trying to just read through everything. By the time you get to the end, you're like, okay, I don't remember what I read halfway through the book, so I know I'm going to mess up half of this game the first time I play it.
That's right.
I really like that when I was reading through the rule book, starting to learn this game after I picked it up. I thought that was a really, really good way to introduce that to people.
That's right. And in the story journal, exactly, you have a little bit of flavor, and then you get to a skirmish. And before you start the skirmish, we say, here's a bulleted list of what the highlights of the skirmish, and if you need more, go to this page in the rule book.
Yeah.
And that was, because the whole point is this is supposed to make an RPG experience, but one that you can just start with minimal fuss.
Yeah.
We want you to be able to dive into it, so you had to be able to dive into it. So thank you.
You don't need a PhD to start playing this and have to know everything inside and out.
So the other thing that Dark Tales adds is this rumor deck. So because these are much more campaign style and more of a longer arc, we felt we wanted to offset that for the people who wanted that kind of shorter quick play experience. Right. So the rumor deck is a concentrated side quest. So it's almost a mini story. In one card, you get a setup of flavor text of what the situation is. Okay. Usually you're traveling or you have some specific objective. Once you achieve that objective, there's more flavor text, and it's a dice roll or a skirmish, so it's a pared down, some side kind of choice-making experience. And then on the back is typically an encounter, so it's a very concentrated, almost mini story.
Okay.
That does a lot, and then what your reward is for accomplishing it is right there on the bottom. This has been the most requested, please make more thing that we've done. I have been working on many of them because this was the deck and it is the most talked about, I think, on the folklore forums. I love the story campaigns, and I think people enjoy it. but really, people love their side quests, and I guess that's shouldn't be surprising because
Right, because whenever you're playing an RPG, let's say on a video game or something, it's whenever I play a big game, I never follow the main story. I'm always walking around, I'm just like, oh, look, there's something shiny here. Oh, look, there's something shiny here. 20 hours later, you're like, oh, I've done one story in the main quest. I don't even remember what the main story was about now because I've done 30 other things in the game.
So, of course, for our next expansion, Fall of the Spire, we're going to have quite a few more of the rumor cards because we did ones that tie into the new afflictions that we are creating, and the afflictions, of course, being the big boss monsters. Right. And then we did ones that were social stretch goals on our Kickstarter that unlocked different designers and media people in the community.
Oh, cool.
Who are the NPCs on the card that send you on your quest.
Okay.
So a few that are my favorite. So Daryl Andrews, who designed Sagrada, agreed to be one. So there is a stained glass window maker.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Who sends you on a quest. And then Isaac Childress, who designed Gloomhaven.
Yep.
Agreed to be on one. And that was quite possibly my favorite because we made him a doctor in it who has had a gloom descend over him, and he needs you to do something for him to rid him of this funk that he's in.
Cool.
And because I made him a doctor, he took a picture. Like they all took pictures with the rumor card, which was like amazing. It was so great.
I think I saw
humbling,
a lot of those on the Facebook group.
That everybody was like, "Yeah, I want to do that." It was really, I don't know. I was expecting some people to be like, "You want to what? Why?" And everybody was like, "No, that sounds like fun." He put on a lab coat so that he was a doctor and took his picture, and it was the sweetest and nicest and most genuinely lovely thing I think anybody's ever done.
That's awesome.
It's great. It's fantastic, and I hope he likes it when we finish. So yeah.
Well, the Kickstarter for that one was very successful.
Yep.
So that was a really good campaign you guys had. So like I said, I was following it. I actually backed that one because I didn't want to miss that.
Thanks.
I was just like, I had missed the first and original Kickstarter, but after reading about the game, I was like, I definitely wanted to get into this one a lot more. So.
And we're excited. So the new things for that one when it comes out, we talked a little bit about it in the Kickstarter itself. But so the new things that will add are an extra layer of things to the encounters combat. So there will be an initiative track rather than just rolling to see who starts.
Okay.
There will actually be an initiative order. And then based on where you are in the initiative, there is going to be a separate deck that modifies your attack.
Oh, interesting.
So while it still won't have, it's still pretty straightforward because we want it to stay true to folklore where it's easily accessible, it's for people of all ages, and we don't want it to become too complex. We do want it to still have that ability because you can use it or you can choose not to. You can just still do the traditional combat. It's something that you can add as a layer so that if combat has gotten repetitive for somebody who's playing, it adds that layer, and it also means that you can retroactively use it with the earlier games.
Interesting.
So that's cool. One thing that I'm really excited that we're doing. And then also, again, everybody loves their side quests, so we're doing town events as well as, so we actually hadn't talked about it, but when you're traveling the world map, you take those road events or off-road events, which are shorter high risk reward kind of cards. We're also going to have town event cards, and the town event cards, very similarly, when you're in town, you have a menu of things. You go to the physician and get stitches to heal yourself up, or you go to the inn and gain some information or insight about what's happening in the town. This will allow you, instead of doing the set number of you can only do this many choices, it'll be almost a push your luck kind of a thing where the first one you can do, but then every additional location that you go to, you'll have to draw a town event card, and it will have that similar risk reward kind of a moment.
That'll definitely change up the town encounters then when you're in
right.
town. Yeah, that'll be fun.
But it also adds more side quests.
Right.
And
yep.
I really listened to the community's desire for that, so we've taken that to heart and we've tried to add it in as much as possible.
Well, hopefully everybody enjoys that.
I do too. Yeah. I hope that too.
Hopefully they're satisfied this time.
Yeah. And of course they're going to we're talking about the next one, but looking at this, for example, some of the abominations that we had that are also being revisited are the Lich. So some of the abominations, the Wood Mother. So some of these characters that the Doppelganger were the miniatures were never added here, so they've been added in with the Kickstarter. But you have these really cool, really strange and weird monsters that you're fighting. So the core game had your traditional Gothic ones, and now we're and so in this we started to get a little bit more out there, and then in the next expansion we go even further because you're traveling the world, but also a little bit of time travel.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're starting to bend the corners of reality because we can, because that's what you do.
Yes, why not?
Yeah. So there we go. That's Folklore, the Affliction, and specifically we were looking at Dark Tales.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We're going to clear the table off and we go to our next game with Julie from Greenbrier Games. And we have another game set up. This is Barbarian.
Barbarian Battlegrounds.
Okay.
So you are Grand High Chieftain, I suppose, of a vicious, proud warrior bear clan. And you are the best, the fiercest, the most toughest, with the gnarliest teeth and the sharpest of claws, bears in all of beardom. And you will go down in Bear Valhalla. Your songs will be sung by bards for the ages. Or at least that's what you're hoping. So you want the most glory. So you have these, and they look like little, like capture the flag tokens.
Yep.
Glory tokens. You start with 2, and you're trying to be the first to get to 7. So there's a lot of different ways to get up, to gain glory, but how it works is in a series of 4 rounds. So what everybody does is they take their dice. So I'm the yellow group, and you're red, there's blue, there's a green, and we would all roll our dice out in the open. Of course, these are representative of our bears.
Okay.
So if I roll, I get to, I got triple 5s.
Yeah,
that was pretty awesome.
That was a much better roll than what I had.
You have yours hidden. You got to have it out in the open first. You can't hide it behind the screen. We all got to see what everybody's rolling, because where you place them is dependent on the number. So, for example, I just rolled 3 5s, which is pretty fantastic because the only thing that you can stack are numbers that are the same.
Okay.
So I could put 15 in an attack against one person, and that person is going to have a real bad day.
I'm guessing that's going to be me because I'm the only one here.
Let's pretend I rolled something different, because that's just a really mean way to start off the game. And it's not a nice game. It's a cute game, but it's a stabby game. So
Ooh, okay, we like that. Because she likes to stab me a lot. So
there you go.
Perfect.
Whatever makes you happy. So let's say I got a 2, a 4, and a 5.
Okay.
So looking at my board, I can either attack red. Now, in a 2-player game, of course, these would not be there. And so if I attacked green or blue, that would be useless. So it's a focused attack. So let's say I chose to do that, and I would put my 4. That means I'm sending 4 bears out as a raiding party towards your way. Now, it's, of course, hidden, so you wouldn't be able to see that. Or I might decide that maybe I did that last round, and I'm thinking you're out for vengeance at this point. So maybe I'm putting 5 bears on sentry, and that's going to protect me against any incoming attacks. So it's the difference between sending bears out to a specific other village versus putting them on the barracks at my village, which means any incoming attack is going to meet with that.
Gotcha.
Or I could forego that altogether and be like, you know what? We're a peaceful little bear tribe. We're the
Care Bears.
We're the Care. We are in no way affiliated with the Care Bears, the delightful, delightful show that we do not have the rights to. So also put them to work. So they can go, if you have a 1, 2, or 3, you can place them here, and now they can gather honey for you. So now they're little beekeeper bears.
Okay.
Or if you have a 4, 5, or 6, you can place them here, and they go out in the mines and they gather ore for you because they're bears, and I don't understand that, but it was worker placement, and that seemed to feel right. Or
we needed a resource.
Or you can put any number here in the center, and now your shaman bear is chanting to the gods and gathering you faith, and then you can get one of these. Now, in addition, this one has a special one. If you get a 6 and you place it here, you can either get 2 faith, or you can lock in one of your glory, and that means that shaman has sung your praises so long and so loud that feat that you did that gained you that glory is cemented with your clan, and nobody else can steal it.
Okay.
And claim it for their own.
I like that.
Yeah. So you have an option either way. So once I get my resources, so of course this is where these are the placement.
Mm-hmm.
So I would place them, you would place yours, we would be very sneaky about it, and then the big reveal, we would resolve any attacks that happened.
Okay.
Then we would gather the resources that we had gotten, and then we can use those resources to level up. So it's a little bit of an engine building.
Oh, cool.
There's a number of things you can do with that. You can recruit more bears if you have enough resources, where you have now gotten a new bear for your game. Or you can hire a specialist, so a guard bear who's specifically only going to work on sentry duty. He has a +1 to your defense. Or a permanent honey bear, or a permanent shaman, or a permanent miner. So you have those that you can purchase. You can also, for example, get 2 honey and entice a mercenary bear to come work for you for 1 dice roll. So that's Kevin.
Oh, okay.
Kevin has come just for the 1 attack, or I mean mining. He's there for mining.
I like this. He's
a nomadic mining
really
bear.
Cool.
Yeah. So there's a number of things that you can do, and very conveniently and easily, the 4 phases. So your planning, the brawl, gathering, and building are here to give you a quick reference of what you need to do. And then the majority of the things that you can purchase for your engine building are right here. The exception being there are some specialty cards that you can also buy in lieu of those. And then there's also these little side quest cards. And these are great because they allow you to gain glory by completing specific situations, which add glory to the pool. Of course, you're going to also get that from attacking other players and stealing their glory, or you can do it the old-fashioned way and just buy them. So all of these things,
more fun.
Right? Sometimes it doesn't work and you're sad. Just saying. So regardless, the first person to get to 7 is the winner, and it tends to be about 20 minutes. It's not a little bit slow to start, just like any sort of worker placement game, and then it ramps really quickly. And it typically, when I play, and from ages 8 and up, I've played with 8-year-olds, I've played with 30-year-olds who behave like 8-year-olds. It tends to be a very close game where there's not usually a runaway player who is like you're at 2 and they had 4, 5, 6, 7 done.
And it's 2 to 4 players.
2 to 4 players.
Cool. Interesting.
We will be coming out with an expansion here very soon that will add up to 6 players and also make the 2-player a little bit more asymmetrical so that it's not 1, 1, 1, 1.
Interesting.
That would be cool. Of that.
All right. All right, and there we have Barbarian Battlegrounds.
There you go.
We're going to clear the table off one more time as we have one more game to show you.
One more.
From Greenbrier Games. This time we have Helios Expands set up on the table. She's going to give us a run-through of what this game is about.
Sure. So this is a game where you are playing one faction of humanity that left the solar system after, it's many, many, many hundreds of years in the future, and all the resources are depleted, and we have gotten to the dregs of what our sun can sustain us for, and in desperation, different factions pull together and build ships and head out to what they hope is going to be a Goldilocks zone, new world experience. And you get there, and we're all happy and we share and it's fun and, new civilization flourishes.
Yay. But?
No. No, that's not what happens at all. It's a land grab, folks. We want all the stuff. So what we're doing is we are playing a 4X style experience, but it's in under an hour. And
okay.
I do mean that. I don't mean like under an hour, like it's in an hour, like an hour and 20 minutes. You're going to take about half an hour to 45 minutes to play on average.
Interesting.
Yeah. So to do that, we do a deck programming mechanism. So what you're doing is you're using your cards to do those, to explore, to expand, to exploit, and to exterminate.
Mm-hmm. I can never remember those four.
That's
very impressive.
Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. We got lucky
As
today.
you were going through them, I was trying to rattle them off.
I'm actually going to look it up afterwards to see if I got all of them correct, because I think I did sound good.
You did. I'll buy it.
Here's hoping.
You just sold it.
All right. So what we would do is on our turn, and of course, so I have red, blue, and greens randomized at the beginning. And we would put them, so that would be the initiative order.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to program, so we're going to place a card face up. So some of the things that I can do is I could research to level up in my technology.
All right.
I can do training to level up in my military track. That's important because on all the cards, you're going to have your ability that's on the top that is available at the very beginning, but it's going to be something very simple. It's going to be one of the other things that you can do. Or you unlock your advanced ability as you level up in these. So the quicker you do that, the better off you are on average.
The more powerful actions are probably those advanced ones, I'm guessing.
Correct.
All right.
And then, of course, you're going to try to maneuver, and your movement is tied into your technology track, because the more technology you have, the more efficiently your ships move. So, you're going to try to move around the board. You are also going to try to terraform or place colonies on uninhabited planets. You are going to potentially try to invade other planets and take their planet, their people, and
exterminate.
Sure, they just go. They went to a farm.
Yes,
upstate New York.
That's what we'll say.
They're fine.
They're fine. There's no problem there.
Now, the important part about that is if you're going to try to do it, you need to be higher on the military track than the person you are invading.
Okay.
Now, there's some cause for recourse. Maybe they have an invasion card in their hand that they didn't play and program. They can also play that and try to instead move to a adjacent planet if it was empty. Of course, that one wasn't. They wouldn't get to play that one. They may, however, let's say that happened and the ship is over here, the green ship is over there, they might try to counter with a blast. And the blast card, of course, this is mine instead of green, but blast allows anybody, regardless of where they are on the military track, to hit you and knock you up to 2 spaces. And then you would take a damage card. So that would go into your hand, and now it's a -1 to the victory points at the end, and it's also making, when you draw your hand up to its limit, 1 less in your option pool.
Right.
So the cards do combinations of either moving, colonizing, or attacking, for the most part, or allowing you to level up to become more efficient in those. How it works, however, is, so let's say I put down training, that's my first card. And then blue here is going to maneuver, so they are going to move. Green has chosen to research first, so they're going up on the technology track. Now you need to be paying attention so that you can see what everybody's doing. And also remember what you put, because you don't want to maneuver and then maneuver and not actually colonize on the planet that you moved to in the first place. So you're playing these cards, and we're doing 5 turns of placing our cards. You don't always have to place a card. You can actually exhaust your recon card to draw, because your hand limit starts at 7, which is quite a few if you're going to do 5, but still you might have one specific card you want to draw up to. Or you can, play a ruse card, or maybe you have a lot of damage and you need extra cards, for example. Or you might play the ruse card so that you can play a card face down so people don't know whether you're going to hit them. Or maybe you're trying to fake them out so they leave you alone. You never know.
I like that.
So it's a bit of a bluff mechanic. We do 5 turns of that, and then we flip the deck, and then we resolve them. So training is going up in military, and then blue is going to maneuver, so blue moves this way, and then green does research and levels up, and as you can see, it's going pretty quickly.
Right, yeah.
You
No, it does
have-
look like this
you get
moves
some
pretty
cho-
quick. I
right.
could see how you're saying this could go in under an hour then.
Right, and it's not that you don't have choice. So maneuver, it's not saying which way you have to
Right.
move. So you have a variety of choice, but it's still that not, it's imperfect information so that you can't get that analysis paralysis.
Right.
So while it doesn't dig deep and get that nuanced of an 8-hour
Yes.
4X game, you still get that feel of what you're doing in a 4X game and get that overall feeling when you want to do a quicker, lighter game or introduce a new player to this genre.
Right,
of
yeah,
gameplay.
yeah. Because sometimes 4X games can be a little daunting to people who aren't into games like that.
Correct. I mean,
So-
it's arguably my favorite style of game, even though
Okay.
we don't design them and publish them for the most part. It's my favorite to play. I genuinely don't have time to play them very often anymore. So for me, this was really exciting to be able to
A nice sweet
publish.
spot.
Right.
Cool. All right. This is Helios Expands, Greenbrier Games, Julie. Thank you very much for the interview today. It was really nice meeting you, and hopefully you have a great rest of the convention.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.